Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Kṛṣṇa Hare Kṛṣṇa 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Kṛṣṇa Hare Kṛṣṇa
Hare Krishna, everyone. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hold on. Hare Krishna, everyone. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Yashodanandana Prabhu in California. How are you?
Very well. Haribo.
So we're at the ashram in Mexico with Gopal, my friend from Buffalo, New York, who is also a friend of the Yashodanandana Prabhu's. And he's inaugurating a new ashram here in just outside of Mexico City, Yucatepec, Mexico. And we are having a Sunday feast program here tomorrow. So it's quite exciting. And I must say that traveling reminds me of how hard Srila Prabhupada worked when he was present with us in the early days of this mission, how quickly he expanded Krishna consciousness by traveling worldwide. And Prabhupada traveled around the world 11 times after he left New York City. He was constantly traveling and working very hard despite his age and despite his health conditions, which were very severe. As you know, he suffered multiple heart attacks, not only on the boat from India, the Jaladuta, but even in New York City, he had difficulty. And along with that, he also suffered quite a few setbacks. For example, we were reading last time in the diary, in the month of March, that someone broke in his room. Now, the thing is, Prabhupada was living, he was trying to find independence from Mishra, the Ananda ashram, so he could propagate Krishna consciousness without interference from Mishra and his group. Remember, Prabhupada was going to Monroe, but they weren't allowing him to speak. They had him leading kirtan and more or less distributing prasadam, which he did, as we've been reading through the diaries, he wasn't complaining about the situation. He wasn't complaining. But he was looking for solutions to the problem of being on his own in New York with no money per se and no residence. So he moved into this office in the building where Mishra was, but it had no bathroom and no kitchen facilities. So he had to make do with the situation and cook in other places and like that, use someone else's facility for keeping clean. As you know, Prabhupada was a very, personally, very clean person. Cleanliness is next to godliness. So Prabhupada was very clean. And he did this situation without any real facility. And then someone broke in his office, broke the door. They think it was the superintendent, and stole his typewriter and stole his tape recorder. How terrible. So not easy for him, but at the same time, you'll notice as we're reading through the diary, he's never showing really any signs of discouragement, just accepting everything as Krishna's mercy. So like that in our lives, similarly, we should follow this example and understand that Krishna is helping us in every way to go through the journey of life under the protection of our spiritual master, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And so we're very happy to be here today with all of you, broadcasting myself personally from Mexico. You can see behind me, they're working in the gardens to get ready for the program tomorrow. Looks like we're going to have about 20 people attend for Kirtan. The devotees, the Prabhupada Disciples Association devotees from Mexico are coming here, and we're looking forward to meeting them. Krishna Kishore, having Kirtan, of course. Here's the Kirtan hall. You can hear the vibration of the echo. And everybody is going to participate. Different devotees are coming from around the area. We're going to cook a prasadam feast. Boga cooked a feast for everyone to have prasadam. And it'll be in the afternoon. I'm going to speak on the Bhagavad Gita as it is briefly for them. And we look to have a ecstatic festival to inaugurate Gopal's wonderful facility here at Yucatec, Mexico. So we're going to move forward right now. We have the diaries, the original diaries that were preserved for us, and we find them very educational and inspiring. Because reading these diaries, we're getting a direct insight from Srila Prabhupada on what was going on every day and how he dealt with all of the situations as he's progressing forward. Remember, he's only in April. And by the way, I wanted to mention before we start, you can go to Vedabase and hear the lectures that Prabhupada was giving back then. And you'll find them very inspiring to see how he was preaching to the new people. He had no disciples, none. And there was just a few people coming. For example, a lot of the lectures, and we're seeing here in his numbers on the diary, there is only 2 or 3 people coming. Thank you. Yes. Start the screen there. Oh, we're at the highlights. All right. So we read the books, how many books he was selling, and the classes and kirtans. Here's the letters and contacts. He received one letter from Govinda Maharaj on the 2nd. And today, Prabhupada says, I have replied to a letter of the State Department regarding a visit to the president. So he's trying to meet the president of the United States. On the 6th, he received one letter from the Library of Congress, Washington. It is good news. On the 8th, saw Elsie to inquire about the Library of Congress card, not very encouraging. And on the 12th today, I had been to New Delhi House. Mr. Mukherjee of Passport Department kept my undertaking and passport for necessary action. We'll return on Monday the 18th. Today, on the 13th, I received one letter from the chief assistant of the governor of New York State. And on the 15th, Mr. Anderson, assistant to the governor, met. So he went for a meeting. He is still a little sympathetic. He says that I may expect some news from the Asia Society in New York. Today, on the 18th, I took delivery of a passport from New India House. It renewed to a period of 2 years more, up to June 6th, 1968. I went to see Mr. Bogart, but he was not there. I left one note for him. On the 24th, received 2 letters at 72nd, one from Vrindavan and the other from the Secretary President. I talked with Mr. Sulan Richter. And on the 25th, saw Marine Office. Free pass for Paul denied. This was the young fellow that was trying to help Prabhupada back then. Settled to postpone return to India. One letter from Tirtha Maharaj. Tirtha Maharaj, Vrindavan, and Robert's letters replied. And one letter sent to Sumati Murarji requesting free passage for Paul. On the 29th, I met Mr. Pitcher's secretary for informing the vacation of room. Talked with Mr. Banerjee. He has not yet sent the report. Okay. So those were the letters in context. Let's just see here. We'll just read this one page here, and then we'll move forward with the chanting of Jaya Radha Madhava. So on April 1st, here's the detailed list of things that Prabhupada did. Sunrise, 5:42 a.m., sunset, 6:27 p.m., moonset, 4:09 a.m., Dwadasi. When Mr. Pop came to see me, he saw the books, he took one copy of the first part and paid $6. So that's the first volume of Srimad Bhagavatam that he took. In the evening, the meeting was experimentally held at Paul's place, 94 Bowery Place. The attendance was 4 only. Mr. Green paid only $5. The income from books and contributions was $11. Expenditure, bus and subway was 30 cents. And I passed the night at Paul's place. It was nice. So here we'll read the footnotes. This was the first program held at 94 Bowery. So April 1st, note that down. And 2, James Green, later Jagannath Das, one of the original members of the Institute for God Consciousness, signed up on February 23rd. See Chapter 4 on the memorandum, and see also Prabhupada Leela Volume 2, Planting the Seed. So the early days of Kṛṣṇa consciousness with his divine grace in New York City is moving forward to go to the Bowery until he found trouble there, and then he ends up in July at 26 2nd Avenue, where he opened Matchless Gifts, and then everything really takes off. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and the Sankirtan mission. Let's move forward with the chanting of Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, and then the class with His Grace, Yashodanandana Prabhu in freezing Twain Harte, California. Haribol.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Muspat Paramahansa Paribhrajagacharya Sattare Srismadhati Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Bhagavad Ki Jai Ananta Kodi Vaishnavin Ki Jai Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktamani Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Bhog Gopinath Sam Khand Radha Khand Giri Godan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Guru Dwarka Dham Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktavinda Ki Jai All glories to the Assembly All glories to the Assembly Thank you very much.
All glories to you, Srila Prabhupada. Glories to you, Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O my Lord Sri Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you from Srimad Bhagavatam 1:1:1. Narayanam namaskrityam Narayanam namaskrityam Naram cheva narottamam Naram cheva narottamam Devim saraswatim vyasam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet. Tato Jayam Mudirayet. One should utter the means of conquest, Srimad Bhagavatam and Srimad Bhagavad Gita, after offering respectful obeisances to the personality of Godhead Narayana, 2. To the Narayana Rishi, who is the supermost human being, 3. To the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, then 4. To Srila Vyasadeva, the author, from Srimad Bhagavatam 1 to 4. Welcome everyone to this reading and discussion on Srimad Bhagavad Gita. As we do every week, we will be reciting various Sanskrit verses which were given by Srila Prabhupada in 1966 in the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita. This reading and discussion is based on the original 1972 non-edited, non-adulterated, the 1972 Macmillan edition. This is from page 1 in the introduction. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Sri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Svapadantikam. When will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet? Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Raghunatan Anvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahaguna Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master and unto the feet of all Vaishnavas. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami, along with his elder brother Sanatana Goswami, as well as Raghunath Dasa and Raghunath Bhatta, Gopala Bhatta, and Srila Jiva Goswami. I offer my respectful obeisances to Lord Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, along with Advaita Acharya, Gadadhar, Srivas, and other associates. I offer my respectful obeisances to Srimati Radharani and Sri Krishna, along with their associates Sri Lalita and Vishaka. E Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpati Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostuti. O my dear Krishna, you are the friend of the distressed and the source of creation. You are the master of the gopis and the lover of Radharani. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. I offer my respects to Radharani, whose bodily complexion is like molten gold, and who is the queen of Vrindavana. You are the daughter of King Vrishabhanu, and you are very dear to Lord Kṛṣṇa. Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord who can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desire trees, and who are full of compassion for the fallen souls. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. As we've been doing every week, we will read one verse this week from the Gita Mahatmya, which is given in the Padma Purana, and Srila Prabhupada gave that in his original introduction to the Bhagavad Gita. This is text number 6 and 7. Sarvo Panishado Gavo Dugda Gopala Nandanaha Parto Vatsaha Sudhir Bhukta Dugdam Gitam Amritam Mahat. All the Upanishads are like the cows. The one who milks the cows is Lord Kṛṣṇa. Arjuna, Partha, is the calf, and men of purified intellect are the enjoyers. The milk, the beautiful nectar of the Gita is the milk, and the fortunate devotees of fine theistic intellect are the drinkers and enjoyers of that milk. Text number 7. Ekam Shastram Devaki Putra Gitam Eko Devo Devaki Putra Eva Eko Mantrastasya Namani Yani Karamapi Ekam Tasya Devasya Zeva. There need be only one holy scripture, the divine Gita sung by Lord Sri Kṛṣṇa. Only one worshipable Lord, Lord Sri Kṛṣṇa. Only one mantra, his holy names, and only one duty, devotional service unto that supreme worshipable Lord Sri Kṛṣṇa. Today we'll be reading from chapter 10, text number 34 and 35, all synonyms, translations, and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Krishna Consciousness Movement. I'll read the first line and you can read at home with me. Text number 34. Mrityuhu sarvaharashchaham. Mrityuhu sarvaharashchaham. Udbhavascha bhavishyatam. Udbhavascha bhavishyatam. Kirtihi shrirvakchanarinam. Kirtihi shrirvakchanarinam. Smritir medha dritihi kshama. Smritir medha dritihi kshama. Mrityuhu, death. Sarvaharaha, all devouring. Cha, also. Aham, I am. Udbhavaha, generation. Cha, also. Bhavishyatam, of the future. Kirtihi, fame. Shrihi vak, beautiful speech. Cha, also. Narinam, of women. Smritihi, memory. Medha, intelligence. Dhritihi, faithfulness. Kṣṇa, patience. Translation. I am all devouring death, and am the generator of all things yet to be. Among women I am fame, fortune, speech, memory, intelligence, faithfulness, and patience. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. As soon as a man is born, he dies at every moment. Thus death is devouring every living entity at every moment. But the last stroke is called death itself. That death is Kṛṣṇa. All species of life undergo 6 basic changes. They are born, they grow, they remain for some time, they reproduce, they dwindle, and finally vanish. Of these changes, the first is deliverance from the womb, and that is Kṛṣṇa. The first generation is the beginning of all future activities. The 6 opulences listed are considered to be feminine. If a woman possesses all of them or some of them, she becomes glorious. Sanskrit is a perfect language and is therefore very glorious. After studying, if one can remember the subject matter, he is gifted with good memory, or smriti. One need not read many books on different subject matters. The ability to remember a few and quote them when necessary is also another opulence. Text number 35. Briyat sama tata samnam. Briyat sama tata samnam. Gayatri chandasamaham. Gayatri chandasamaham. Masanam margashirshoham. Masanam margashirshoham. Ritunam kusumakaraha. Ritunam kusumakaraha. Briyat sama. The Briyat sama. Tata. Also, Samnam of the Samaveda song, Gayatri, the Gayatri hymns, Chandasam of all poetry, Aham, I am, Masanam of months, Margashirshoham, the month of November, December, Aham, I am, Ritunam of all seasons, Kusumakaraha, spring. Translation of hymns, I am the Brihatsama, song to the Lord Indra. And of poetry, I am the Gayatri verse, sung daily by Brahmanas. Of months, I am November and December. And of seasons, I am flower-bearing spring. Purport. It has already been explained by the Lord that amongst all the Vedas, the Samaveda is rich with beautiful song played by the various demigods. One of these songs is the Brihatsama, which has an exquisite melody and is sung at midnight. In Sanskrit, there are definite rules that regulate poetry. Rhyme and meter are not written whimsically as in much modern poetry. Amongst the regulated poetry, the Gayatri mantra, which is chanted by the duly qualified Brahmanas, is the most prominent. The Gayatri mantra is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Because the Gayatri mantra is especially meant for God realization, it represents the Supreme Lord. This mantra is meant for spiritually advanced people, and when one attains success in chanting it, he can enter into the transcendental position of the Lord. One must first acquire the qualities of the perfectly situated person, the qualities of goodness according to the laws of material nature, in order to chant the Gayatri Mantra. The Gayatri Mantra is very important in Vedic civilization and is considered to be the sound incarnation of Brahman. Brahma is its initiator, and it is passed down from him in disciplic succession. The months of November and December are considered the best of all months because in India, grains are collected from the fields at this time, and the people become very happy. Of course, spring is a season universally liked because it is neither too hot nor too cold, and the flowers and trees blossom and flourish. In spring, there are also many ceremonies commemorating Krishna's pastimes. Therefore, this is considered to be the most joyful of all seasons, and it is the representative of the Supreme Lord Krishna. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyaya Bhakti Vedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Bhagavad Vandanam Khadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadatehi Visheshataham Adadhanastrinam Danteridam Yachi Punaha Punaha Srimad Rupa Padam Bhoja Dhulishyam Janma Janmani Amsho Bhagavatu Smyaham Sadadaso Asmi Sarabata Tat Kripa Pikshako Nityam Tat Prishtashad Karumishvam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We had an interesting encounter with Srila Prabhupada in October of 1972 in Vrindavan at the Radha Damodar Temple in Srila Prabhupada's quarters. Srila Prabhupada was describing how when he went from Calcutta to Allahabad or Prayag to establish his pharmacy, he bought a vehicle, an American vehicle, an old, solid, sturdy vehicle, and Prabhupada called it a Plymouth. And Guru Kripa Swami at the time told him, Srila Prabhupada, that word is not pronounced like that. It's Plymouth. Prabhupada says, no. Plymouth. Prabhupada, that is the problem with the English language. It is an imperfect language. Just like you have in English, Prabhupada continued. And he said, just like you have the word but, B-U-T, and the word put, there's no rational explanation why these two words are pronounced different. In other words, although there are certain rules in the English language, it is not a perfect language like Sanskrit. What is always pronounced the same at all times in all circumstances. In other words, the Sanskrit language it's called Devanagari. This is the language they speak in Vaikuntha, Goloka, Vrindavan, and even in the higher planets, in the heavenly planets, Svargaloka. It's called Devanagari. This is the language they speak. And Prabhupada explained that this is a perfect language. So this is very interesting. Here we see in these verses, our Lord Krishna is explaining very nicely that Briyat Sama Tata Samnam Gayatri Chanda Samaham. Of the hymns, I am the Briyat Sama sung to the Lord Indra, and of poetry, I am the Gayatri verse sung daily by Brahmanas. Of months, I'm November and December, and of seasons, I'm flower-bearing spring. For those who are students of the Vedas, we see that there are so many different portions of the Vedas which are pronounced in a very systematic metric way. Prabhupada explains in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that Shukadev Goswami was a very powerful preacher. He had heard the whole science of Bhagavatam from his father, Vyasadeva. But sometimes great powerful preachers may not be expert in systematically pronouncing the systemic Vedic meters, but that is no fault, because we see that such great powerful personalities explain the real meaning of the Vedas, the real meaning of the Shastras. Here we see. There's a very nice lecture that Prabhupada once gave about this first Sanskrit line, Mrityuhu Sarvas Harasyaham, in text number 34. And Prabhupada said, just like if a cat grabs a mouse in its jaws, that mouse will feel death. But if a cat grabs its little kitten by the neck and moves it from one place to another, that kitten will simply feel love. Prabhupada said in the same way, the time of death for the devotee is like that. They are protected by the Supreme Lord. Ananyas chintayanto mam, yejanaha paryupasate, tesam nitya biyuktanam yoga kshemam vahamyaham. Krishna promises in the Bhagavad Gita that he protects his devotees. Always. This is a very important point. But those who are non-devotees, at the time of death, those who deny the existence of God, the atheists, the agnostics, who rebel against the authority of God, the authority of the Supreme Lord Krishna, for them, death, that is Krishna personified, because they cannot take anything. There is one lecture where Srila Prabhupada explains that you may believe or not believe. In this life, you may be very comfortable in this body, this situation. But what is the guarantee so you'll be comfortable in your next life? Prabhupada said, you may be a very rich man living in a skyscraper. What if in the next life you're a cockroach in the same building? What will you do? Or you're born as a cat or dog with no facility to understand spiritual life. What will you do? The way to solve that problem is simply putting their head in the sand, like the ostrich. Put their head in the sand, or pretend that there is no problem. They have a foolish saying, oh, you only live once. No, you will live much more than once. You are eternal. You're an eternal spirit soul. Krishna sees, it describes in the Bhagavad Gita, in the second chapter, between text 11 and 42, so many different characteristics of the spirit soul. And in one of these conversations, Vishwakarma Prabhu pointed out that in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, for one who is born, death is certain. And for one who has died, birth is certain. There's no cause for lamentation. The spirit, it's like changing shirts. Does one lament because he has changed a shirt? No, we see in the Bhagavad Gita that the change of bodies is compared to the change of garments. It happens. Everybody changes clothes every day, or once in a while at least. But no one laments. No one complains. So this is a very important point. And that next life will be based upon the karma in this life. The word karma is used by many people, but it is many times misunderstood. It is not understood properly. They think karma is just a reaction you get. But the current situation you have now is the result of purva karma. Purva in Sanskrit means previous karma, in a previous life. That is the situation. Prabhupada explained, Janma Aishwarya Shuta Shribi. To have a good birth, and to be beautiful, to be educated, to be wealthy. Many of these things do not happen by chance. They do not happen by chance. They're due to past pious activities. So this is a very important point. But in this life, one can finish all this up and down and all of this difficulty. All of this material difficulty we're encountering in this world, as all the suffering can be finished by engaging the senses and the mind in the service of Kṛṣṇa. I've described before how in this class we're going to have a little, we call them special events, and this is related to a section of this Bhagavad Gita verse where Kṛṣṇa describes that Gayatri Chandasamaham. Of poetry, I am the Gayatri verse sung daily by Brahmanas. And we're going to be reading a little bit here from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 7, text number 14. Canto 5, Chapter 7, text number 14. Paro Rajaha Savitur Jata Vedu Devasya Bargo Manasedam Jajana Surita Sada Punarabhishya Chaste Amsam Gridranam Drishadringiram Imaha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is situated in pure goodness. He illuminates the entire universe and bestows all benediction upon his devotees. The Lord has created this universe from his own spiritual potency. According to his desire, the Lord entered this universe as the supersoul, and by virtue of his different potencies, he's maintaining all living entities desiring material enjoyment. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Lord, who is the giver of intelligence. Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport, the predominating deity of the sun is another expansion of Narayana, who is illuminating the entire universe. The Lord enters the hearts of all living entities as the super soul, and he gives them intelligence and fulfills their material desires. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Sarvasya chaham hriddhi sannivishtaha. I am sitting in everyone's heart. As the super soul, the Lord enters the hearts of all living entities. As stated in Brahma Samhita 535, Andantarashta paramanu chayantarashtam. He enters the universe and the atom as well. In the Rig Veda, the predominating deity of the sun is worshipped by this mantra. Dhyayaha sada savutra mandala madhyavarati narayana sarasijasana sannibishtaha. Narayana sits on his lotus flower within the sun. By reciting this mantra, every living entity should take shelter of Narayana just as the sun rises. According to modern scientists, the material world rests on the sun's effulgence. Due to the sunshine, all planets are rotating and vegetables are growing. We also have information that the moonshine helps vegetables and herbs grow. Actually, Narayana within the sun is maintaining the entire universe. Therefore, Narayana should be worshipped by the Gayatri mantra or the Rig mantra. It's interesting how in this verse, Prabhupada is explaining that every living entity should take shelter of Narayana, just as the sun rises. And the full mantra is given. Venkat, maybe you can put the full mantra on the board, if you can, on the screen. Venkat? Okay, this is the full mantra that we were talking about. Prabhupada gave the first line. Dhyayaha sada savitrumandala madhyavarati Narayana sarasija sanibishtaha Kayuravan Makarakundalavan Kiriti Hari Iranmayavapuhu Drita Shankachakraha. What this means, this is a meditation on a form of Lord Narayana, who is sitting in the middle of the sun. This is some kind of a version. I always adore Surya, the sun, the beautiful Lord of the world, the immortal, the quintessence of the Vedanta, the auspicious, the absolute knowledge of the form of Brahman, the Lord of the gods, ever pure, the one true consciousness of the world itself, the Lord of Indra, the gods and men, the preceptor of the gods, the crest jewel of the tree world, the very heart of the form of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, the giver of light, the sun being the most effulgence and life-giving force for this planet. It forms the visible representation of the invisible Almighty Lord. The vast majority of men cannot think of the translucent Supreme Absolute without the help of some concrete objective idea. To them, the sun forms the best object for worship and meditation. Thus, Surya Namaskara provides the foundation for the magnificent all-around culture of body, mind, and spirit, which is essential for every human being. It's quite significant that Srila Prabhupada is recommending that every living entity should recite this mantra upon getting up in the morning. This is a very important point. So this is very, very significant. Prabhupada is giving so many different recommendations in his books, just like on Wednesday of this week, we had a brief special event where we were discussing how to take a bath by bringing the waters of these 7 holy rivers of India. Because Srila Prabhupada one time explained that in India there are yogis in the morning that they take their bath in 4 holy places. They take in Dwarka, in Badrinath, in Jagannath Puri, and Rameshwaram, the 4 sacred dham, the 4 sacred places, and they take their bath simultaneously in all these places. Of course, if one has that kind of mystic power, but there is a mantra in the Shastra that one can bring the water of the 7 sacred rivers, bring that mantra into the shower or the bath, put a cloth around your waist, and put the bath either for men or women, and then you get the benefit of having the Ganges, the Yamuna, the Sindhu River, the Kaveri, Kṛṣṇa, Godavari, like that. So this is very, very nice that we have, that one can avail of this facility. And also, before one puts tilak, one should do what's called achaman, where one take a spoon in the left hand, put the water in the right hand, sip the water 3 times, and then you can sanctify the water by bringing the water of the 7 holy rivers into the cup. Gange cha Yamune cheva, Godavari Saraswati, Narmade Sindhu Kaveri, Jalismin Sannidhim Kuru. Not very complicated, very easy. Anybody can follow that, just like anybody can get up in the morning, chant that mantra we gave. If anybody wants to get a copy of this, you can send us an email either to Venkat Prabhu, Vishwakarma, or myself. We'll gladly send it to you. We'll also put it on our website and also on our Prabhupada Disciples Association on Facebook. But this is very, very nice the teachings of Srila Prabhupada, how he gives so many nice practical instruction of how to live and implement these practices in our daily lives. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Hare Bol, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Yashodanandana Prabhu, for your explanation in today's verses. And I wanted to comment that Prabhupada in the purport mentions in text 34 that as soon as one is born, one dies at every moment. And that death is devouring, thank you, every living entity at every moment, but the last stroke is called death. That death is Kṛṣṇa. And the living entity goes through 6 basic changes. This is called transmigration of the soul, transmigration, birth, growth, sustenance, or remaining, Prabhupada says here, for some time, reproduction, deterioration, and death. These things affect all living entities, Yashodanandana Prabhu, but unfortunately, people in the modern world have no knowledge of this. And they have no understanding of opportunity. What is the opportunity of human life? Because the human life is a gift for the living entity. It's an opportunity to understand the transmigration of the living entity from birth to death. But nobody is worried about that. Everyone is so much concerned about living a so-called happy life. I was at the airport in Toronto to fly here to Mexico. It's quite interesting. There must have been 50,000 people in the airport. 50,000. Running here, running there, going there, doing this, dressed up in a certain way, carrying on in some kind of illusion. But nobody could understand why they were born. No one could understand why they were here, and no one could understand where they were going. They were simply completely in Maya. And this is the situation in the West. It's all over the world, of course, but for me, seeing it here in the Western world, everyone is captivated by the illusion that I am the enjoyer of everything I see. It's a complete madhouse of the modern world that we live in, especially when you see that everyone is transmigrating through this soul, through this body, I should say. Transmigrating. Yashoda, I was looking at a picture this morning someone sent me of some old musicians that we knew from the 60s. Peter Townsend from The Who, John Mayall, and someone else, Mick Fleetwood. It was shocking. You could not recognize them. They look like absolutely old men from an old age home. Finished. Time and tide wait for no man. It doesn't matter who you are. This birth, death, disease, old age, this cycle, samsara cycle, is the reality that the living entity is in this material world. And Prabhupada, by his mercy, came from India to give us this insight that we didn't have. Nobody, just think, before he showed up, practically no one had even heard the term Maya, or illusion, or life of illusion, or birth and death. Nobody was thinking of it. So this was Prabhupada's great gift to the world. It is his great gift to the world, to open one's eyes with the torchlight of knowledge to the reality of the situation that we're currently in, all of us. For one who is born, death is certain, and for one who has died, birth is certain. This is reality. Everything else is the reality of the mudha, the donkey, in no understanding of what human life is about. And just one last point, Yashoda Prabhu. Prabhupada mentions here at the end of the purport that Sanskrit is a perfect language and is therefore very glorious. So here we've been gifted with this opportunity to study from the Shastra. And after studying, if one can remember the subject matter, he is gifted with good memory, or Smriti. This is Yashoda Nandana Prabhu's wonderful position in life, this opulence he has for memory. And one need not read many books on different subject matters. So here Prabhupada's explaining to us a point that he explained to me, which is it's not necessary for you to read all these books. You can just read the Bhagavad Gita, learn some verses, and explain them to others, and that's all the knowledge that you need. Just one book, Bhagavad Gita, that's sufficient. Now, Prabhupada gave us 3 books.
I think the line was interrupted there. Haribo, I think that line was...
Yes, Prabhu. Vishwakarma Prabhu is not in the meeting.
Okay. I see that Neil Sharma Prabhu has raised his hand for a question. So go ahead, Prabhu, make your point, bring your question.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. I just wanted to ask several points over here. The first point was you talk about, you started off the class with Gita Mahatmya. You started off by saying, let there be one God, let there be one book, let there be one mantra. My question is, we have 4 Vaishnava Sampradayas, and every Vaishnava Sampradaya have their own Mahamantra. I grew up in the Rudra Sampradaya, which is Vallabhacharya Sampradaya, where the Mahamantra is Sri Kṛṣṇa Sharanam Mama. Then, of course, Prabhupada gives us, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives us the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And then we know the Mahamantra for Sri Sampradaya to be Om Namo Narayana. So, why this variance? What is the purpose of this variance? Why could we just not stick to one great Mahamantra, especially when Prabhupada mentions in the purport of the Mahamantra that this Mahamantra is coming down all the way from Golok Vrindavan. So what about the other Sampradayas and what will their destinations be? That is number one. Yes, go ahead.
Let's deal with that first. There's a difference between the Mahamantra, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and different Sampradaya mantras. There's an Upanishad called the Mahanarayana Upanishad, which has many, many different mantras for Lord Rama, Lord Nrsimha, Lord Krishna, Lord Vishnu, Lakshmi, so many different transcendental personalities. There's different mantras, specific Vedic mantras. What you have here, what you're describing is different Sampradaya mantras, where different Sampradayas use certain mantras. But the Maha Mantra, or the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This is the Maha Mantra that is described both in the Kali Santarana Upanishad and various other Vedic literatures, that for Kali Yuga, that this is the Maha Mantra. What you're referring to with the Vallabha Sampradaya, that's a specific mantra for that Sampradaya. And for the other mantra, Om Namo Narayana, this is called the Ashtakshara mantra, the 8-syllable mantra. You know, there's also a 6-syllable mantra, Om Vishnave Namaha. There's a 12-syllable mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. as well as Om Namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya. And these different mantras are given by different acharyas in these sampradayas according to the suitability of the candidates. What Srila Prabhupada did is basically give this Maha Mantra. Now, along with that, that is for first initiation. For second initiation, Prabhupada gave various mantras specifically to the Gaudiya Sampradaya. There's what's called the Gayatri mantra or Savitri Gayatri, the Om Bhurbhuva Svaha mantra, as well as a Guru mantra, a Gaura mantra, a mantra to Lord Chaitanya, a Gayatri mantra to Lord Chaitanya. There's the Kam Gayatri, and there's also another mantra to Lord Krishna. So these various mantras are given pertaining to our sampradaya, the Gaudiya Sampradaya. Now, there is also a lot of different variations from various other branches of the Gaudiya Sampradaya, but we take our authority from Srila Prabhupada of how he explains these various mantras. So I hope that helps. And you had some
Yes,
other question?
yes, definitely. Hare Krishna. So, is there a place where we can find the purport from Srila Prabhupada's Vani about the Gayatri Mantra for the second initiation, Om Bhurbhuva Swaha?
Yeah, there's a lot of places. You can go to prabhupadbooks.com, look to the top left where it says search. It's something else. It says something else. And you put in the box Gayatri Mantra, and then, or you put mantra, Gayatri, and then you'll find so many different references, as well as many different, if you put second initiation, there's so many references from Srila Prabhupada, we explains everything in that context. There's a lot of explanation, especially in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Prabhupada explains what is the qualification for somebody to receive the Gayatri mantra and other Gaudiya mantras, as well as first initiation, second initiation, the different offenses and everything. Everything is given there, but it's not very difficult to find. You can also look on vanipedia.com in the search box, and you put Gayatri mantra or second initiation, first initiation. You're going to find so many different references with regards to this topic. Very, very interesting.
Hare Krishna.
Other question? Hare
Yes,
Krishna.
and the last thing which I wanted to let you know is that you gave a nice quote from Brahma Samhita, where Lord Brahma says that Krishna enters into the universes and into every atom. And lately, about 4 or 5 years ago, there was a big excitement in the physics world for discovering the Higgs particle or the God's particle, which is a subatomic particle. And they built this huge facility in Switzerland called CERN, CERN, where they did all this research work to find out about this Higgs particle after spending $4.75 billion. And it is interesting to see that how this, we call that the 4 types of people who do not surrender to Krishna. And the 4th part are the Maya Aparita Jnanas, meaning they are very intelligent, but Maya has taken away their true intelligence, which is to understand Krishna. And after spending all these years, all this money, they come up and they call it the God's particle. When here, Prabhupada has given us this so simply and so clearly. Hare Krishna.
Very good. Vishwakarma Prabhu, maybe you'd like to comment on that.
Amazing, very amazing. The pursuit of mundane knowledge, when real knowledge is a descending process of knowledge, not ascending process. You can only get insight into the mysteries of the universe by the mercy of the pure devotee and Krishna. So we have with us Dharma Bhavana in Dallas, Texas. Maybe he could share some comments and points of view this morning at the reading and discussion.
Hare Krishna. Well, today's verses are very beautiful concerning the seasons, the spring and the autumn season, November, December. I can just imagine being a farmer and you have come to October, November, and all your wheat, your beans, and all these things are becoming you're able to pick them from the field after all this hard work for many months of watering and so on. And I can understand how it's very special for those who are farmers, because the grains provide life for yourself and all the people of the village and other places. And I was going to read a verse. I'm not sure. I had a question also. It's kind of like we're hearing about these beautiful topics about Bhagavad Gita. Some are very philosophical. Some are meant to help us understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead and who is a Mahatma. And some are kind of beautiful poetic verses about the seasons in spring, how Krishna is, he loves the springtime. He's the month of November and December. But I was just wondering how, along these lines, that there's so much beauty in learning the Vedas. And there's a story of Rama Harshan Sutta. It's been kind of one of my favorite stories all along. I kind of go back to it, but it's hard for me to understand. Somebody can learn the Vedas like Rama Harshan Sutta from his father. He's the most qualified person. And yet somehow, in the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Balaram, he appeared not to be very gentle, not even respectful. And Lord Balaram was pretty upset with him. He wanted to pick up a kusha grass and end his life. And there was some debate about the Brahmins, how these Brahmins said, "You can't do that, Lord Balaram. I know you're the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but we've already made him the head of the sacrifice, and we think you've done a misdeed by this." And Lord Balaram says, "Yeah, I think I've done a misdeed also. I'll atone for it." And the Brahmin, there's a whole discussion going on how the Vedas are so beautiful, but if one learns the Vedas, one has to become a gentle personality, humble. And I always ask myself, I've met so many thousands of people, you present the Vedic knowledge to them, and they can't seem to take to it. And the other people, sometimes they can take to it, but they don't become gentle. And I've always wondered myself, what is the background? How does that work, that some people just simply cannot become gentle and associate with devotees in a gentle way? If anybody could comment upon it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Excellent. Go ahead, Yashoda, please.
This is explained in the Bhagavad Gita in chapter 7, where Krishna explained there are 4 classes of men who never surrender to him. Namam dushkrintano muda parpadyante naradamaha maya aparita jnanam asuram bhavamasritaha. So it's not a matter of material intelligence. In the Upanishad, there's a description, it's very significant, that in order to understand the absolute truth, namedaya, medaya means intelligent. Even if somebody may be highly intelligent, highly educated, PhD, MA, master's degree, that's very nice. But it is not a qualification to understand the absolute truth. Nabahuna Shrutena, somebody who's a great Sanskrit scholar, he studied the Vedas, 4 Vedas, also that's not. So what is the qualification? It is described that there's 2 Sanskrit words, tanum svam, yena atma tanum svam. When that Supreme Atma chooses to reveal himself to you, how does he become revealed? By devotion. That's why those who have no inclination, that is a sign of demonic, asuram bhavamasritaha. That is why even though you will describe to them everything, they will not accept. And then there's the other 4 people who come to Kṛṣṇa, people that are in distress, they're in need of money, they're inquisitive. So it's very nicely within these 2 verses, Lord Kṛṣṇa analyzes the entire psychology of human beings. Now, animals don't fit in there because they don't have the developed consciousness, but human beings have the developed consciousness, and some of them have demonic consciousness, just like in the Bhagavad Gita itself. Later on, we see that Kṛṣṇa dvaubhuta sargalokesmin deva asura evacha. There's always 2 classes of living beings. One of them is the devotee, one of them is the non-devotee. One of them is those who are inclined to worship God, those who are against the authority of God. So this is, the Bhagavad Gita explains things very clearly, both in chapter 7 and the later chapter. This is also explained also in the Vishnu Purana, that these 2 classes of living beings have existed since the beginning of creation. So this is just like the example was given earlier in this discussion that you mentioned that they've had this God particle. Well, we have the God particle right in the Bhagavad Gita, right in the Srimad Bhagavatam, right in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, in the first verse of the first canto, the first chapter, within a few Sanskrit words, we have the God particle, Janmadasya Yataha, that everything that is manifested in the material world comes from God, from Kṛṣṇa, from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, they can do research for a million years, but they'll never understand unless they hear from a bona fide realized acharya, a self-realized soul, a liberated soul. So just a few comments. Hare Krishna. But thank you for these points.
Yeah, it's interesting to note how bewildered people are in this modern world. I had a chance to, I think some of you in America here had a chance to study or watch the State of the Union address by the president here in the United States. And the conclusion was, after watching it, everybody had plastic surgery. They all have plastic surgery. We all have a platform of complete mundane goals to achieve. That's it. The society is completely lost because they have no spiritual guidance. And Prabhupada brought such a great opportunity to America with the Krishna consciousness movement to somehow or other wake up the conditioned soul out of their bewildered state of life. We have Jonas Priya in Hawaii with us, I believe, Prabhu. Maybe you could make a comment on today's discussion for everyone.
Hare Krishna, Hari Bol, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Please accept my humble obeisances. As always, I'm very thankful to be in the great association of these great Vaishnavas. Yeah, Devanagari, it's Sanskrit is the oldest recorded alphabet or written language, and Sanskrit is found on many of the different languages of the world, different words, especially Estonia, I think. In Estonia, they have many, many Sanskrit words in there, and they mean the same thing. Then gypsies, usually they speak some kind of degraded Sanskrit, but just like English, if you speak English, you can pretty much go anywhere in the world and you'll be able to get by. So Sanskrit, you could go anywhere in the universe and you'll be understood, you'll be able to communicate. So Sanskrit is very, very important, and it's very, very sweet. There's so many YouTube, there's probably, I don't know, 100,000 different videos about how wonderful Sanskrit is. Why? Because it is. It's the most amazing language. I'm trying to learn Sanskrit. I could read and write on a kindergarten level, but I'm very excited about it because I think Prabhupada wanted us to, if we can, to read the Sanskrit. And then the question about the different sampradayas and their different mantras and what is the goal of the different mantras of this sampradaya. And my understanding is that it's like ice cream. Kṛṣṇa is the pure ice cream. Now ice cream comes in many flavors, but the essence is the same. It's a milk product. So there's strawberry, chocolate. So I don't know what we are, probably whatever we are, or sampradaya. But there's mixtures too. Some people mix Ram with Kṛṣṇa or Kṛṣṇa with Hanuman, and that's all good because it's all, Prabhupada said, just chant any name of God any name of God. So specifically when mantra is given by a bona fide guru, then the effect will be there. So all of these sampradayas are giving these mantras, and the destination mostly is Vaikuntha. And Prabhupada came and gave us Krishna. Not only that he gave us Krishna, but he gave us Vrindavan Krishna. So that's his special gift to us. Because many people know about Krishna, but they don't understand who Krishna is. They don't understand the difference between Narayan and Krishna, or Krishna and Vishnu. So Prabhupada was so kind, gave us this. This is actually quite advanced knowledge to understand that Krishna is a person and that we have a relationship with him. Who else is given this? Only Prabhupada, as far as I know. Prabhupada wrote his books, and all he talks is about Krishna. Prabhupada says this philosophy. Bhagavad Gita is very simple, he says. Bhagavad Gita says Krishna is God, and Krishna says he is God. He says, what is the difficulty in understanding this basic principle? So we stick to that, and we know that our goal is to go to Krishna Loka, where Krishna is displaying his wonderful pastimes. Now, if we end up in any other Vaikuntha planet, I'm sure it's not that. It's Vaikuntha. So people are worshiping different Narayans or Vishnus. It's Vaikuntha. It's the spiritual world. It's perfect and complete. There's no, only that Krishna Loka is like the cherry on top of the pie. Is the best place. And Prabhupada took so much trouble to try to make us understand this point. So I'm going to stop there, let somebody else say something nice. Hare Krishna. And I'm sure you're going to tell us about the festival. And also, we're very excited that Ronald Singh got a property, apparently. And they're breaking ground on this property that he has in Oroville, California. And now we have this other place, so we could see that by Prabhupada's mercy, this preaching effort is expanding and is manifesting all over the world. Hare Krishna.
Haribo, thank you very much. Yes, we're very excited to see that Ram Singh is moving forward with the purchase of a YMCA. And I mentioned to him last night on the phone, Jonas Priya, that it's interesting to note that Prabhupada, when he first came to America, he stayed at the YMCA in Butler, Pennsylvania, because there was no facility there for him. So very auspicious and a great opportunity for us. And we're here in Mexico. We wish you were here, Jonas Priya, because I know that you do speak Spanish. But we are looking forward to meeting Kṛṣṇa Kishore and his group of devotees from Mexico City, who are Prabhupada disciples, focused Prabhupada disciples. And just Yashoda, just quickly, there are so many different groups of teachers, and there are so many in Gaudiya Vaishnavism. From the Gaudiya Math, there are many different teachers from that group. In fact, I believe a few of their members are coming here tomorrow to be a part of our kirtan. But it's interesting to note that Prabhupada is unique amongst all the preachers. There is a distinction. What is the difference between us and them? And the answer is that we follow Srila Prabhupada, sometimes they call fanatically, because we understand he is the bona fide representative from Bhakti Siddhanta, nobody else. And you'll get the deepest insights and highest understanding of Krishna consciousness from his books and his teachings. Yashodanandana Prabhu, if you could further explain.
Yeah, this is a very important point because many people consider Prabhupada, they call him Swami Maharaj. Because when Prabhupada was in India, before he came to America, he received sannyas in Mathura from His Holiness Keshav Maharaj. And they used to call Prabhupada Swami Maharaj. That's how his name was given. But in America, as the preaching expanded and the temples were opened around the world, by 1968, devotees basically understood that a great powerful spiritual master could be called by the name Prabhupada. So Prabhupada never advertised himself as Prabhupada, but his disciples in New York, Brahmananda, Gargamuni, and others, they called him Prabhupada. There's an interesting story how in 1972, at the first Mayapur's festival in March, Prabhupada was living in a little hut on the left side of the gate. And Prabhupada had invited all of his god brothers for the laying ceremony of the temple, the Mayapur temple that he intended to build. And two senior members of the Gaudiya Math came there, two senior sannyasis, disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta, came there to speak with Prabhupada, and they requested us to leave the room. And what happened is we left the room, and we were watching basically outside the bamboo slates to see what was going on. And there was a very animated discussion that took place where they were explaining, and the word Prabhupada, a lot of this was in Bengali and Sanskrit, occasionally with a few English words. But basically they were discussing the word Prabhupada and Swami. And at one point, Prabhupada rang his bell. And he told his secretary and his servants, please bring my letterhead. Now, when you look at Prabhupada's letterhead, it had this purple writing on the top. It said, Tridandi Goswami, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. It did not have the title Prabhupada on top of the letterhead. But they were very agitated, and they pointed their fingers at him. They raised their voices. They criticized, and eventually they just got up and walked off. They were very angry. And we heard they step over prasadam that had been cooked by Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur's cook. His name was Ananda Prabhu. He used to be a cook for Bhaktisiddhanta, his disciple. So after that, Prabhupada, we came back into the room, and Prabhupada said, they have become envious. Prabhupada said, in the spiritual world, in Goloka Vrindavan, there's no envy. Everybody is assisting Radharani serving Krishna. There's no envy there. He says, they have become envious because I don't call myself Prabhupada, but my disciples call myself Prabhupada. This is what Prabhupada explained to them. They would not accept that. Then they engage in propaganda in Navadvip, led by the Mathura advisor, protesting against our Srila Prabhupada and protesting that we, as his disciples, were calling him Prabhupada. Because they say nobody should ever take that title. Well, we gave him that title on account of his accomplishment. He's the one that fulfilled the desire of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Just like in our Sampradaya, Rupa Goswami is also called, the Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, because he has established within the material world the mission to deliver the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Similarly, Prabhupada fulfilled the mission of Lord Chaitanya by coming to the West and basically bringing the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Nobody ever did that. Now, Prabhupada was very gracious to his godbrothers. He tried to engage them and tried to, engage them in his mission, in the mission, but none of them came over. None of them came over. There was all kinds of criticism from all directions. So this is a very important point. We do not accept their position. Anybody who calls our Prabhupada Swami Maharaj, you're envious. You are a nonsense. This is what Prabhupada told us in 1972 in that meeting, that they have become envious. On another occasion in 1973 in December, we met Prabhupada. Prabhupada said exactly the same thing. I came to the West. I preach. I didn't do anything to them. This is what Prabhupada said, and they became envious. So Prabhupada did not want any association with that group, despite the fact that Prabhupada invited them to participate and invited them. But they wanted to come and take advantage. We've seen this numerous times. They come to the mission that Prabhupada started, to the ISKCON institution, and they try to take advantage by reinitiating disciples and all kinds of nonsense. Hare Krishna.
Well, that's a fact. And the other thing that we're aware of is that a pure devotee is very rare. And somehow or other, after the disappearance of Bhaktisiddhanta, all these people in the Gaudiya Math wanted to rise up and become the next acharyas. This is not reality. And Prabhupada manifested his transcendental position as a pure devotee when you read his books, when you see the insights that he delivers to us. Because it mentions today, Prabhu, about in the Bhagavad Gita, about just, you don't have to read all kinds of books. Our answer to them is just read Prabhupada's books. That will give you the highest insight. And it's very important. That's why Prabhu, that's why you always mention, we cannot allow changed books to enter into this sampradaya that Srila Prabhupada is representing. This legacy is manifested in his books. And if you change the books, Prabhupada says, if you change it, where is the potency then? When you change something, it loses its potency. All these people are giving these other books. They're writing all about the pastimes of Krishna. It is not even close to the realizations that you can get when you study Prabhupada's books. There's no one like him. And we, as the Prabhupada Disciples Association and Hare Krishna Society, are maintaining that point as a difference between us and them, everyone else. Jonas Priya, we'll go a little bit longer because we have a few hands up, and then we'll end the talk. Jonas Priya, please, in
Hare
Hawaii.
Krishna. Yes, I heard the story that actually the Gaudiya Math, they had a meeting where they all took the vow of not taking the name Prabhupada. Now, Prabhupada wasn't at that meeting, so Prabhupada never took that vow. That's my first point. Then the second point, Govinda Dasi told me, I heard the story directly from Govinda. So they used to call her Govindaji. And Prabhupada told her, he said, this Govindaji is not, it's not totally respectful to call somebody Ji. So Govinda said, well, then how can we call you Swamiji? And Prabhupada said, oh, that's not very important. And Govinda said, no, that's very important. So she says, what should we call you? What name, what's the proper title to call you? And Prabhupada thought for a minute, and he said, Guru Deva. He said a couple names. He said 3 names. I don't remember the second one. The third one was Prabhupada. And then she said, of these 3 names, which name is the most qualified for yourself? And Prabhupada thought for a second. I said, Prabhupada. So then Govinda said, okay, from this day on, we will call you Prabhupada. And Prabhupada agreed. And then she said, so she got on the phone and she started calling all the temples. And she said, Swamiji is no longer Swamiji. Now we will call him Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Yes, Yashoda, please.
I want to reiterate this point. Although this story about the Gaudiya Math sannyasis promising not to take the title Prabhupada, Prabhupada's argument was, I did not call myself Prabhupada. My disciples called me Prabhupada. This is a big difference. his godbrothers, Prabhupada mentions that in the Chaitanya Charitamrita as well as the Nectar of Instruction, how some of his godbrothers become envious because we, as his disciple, called him Prabhupada. And this is a very important point. That's why in that famous letter to Rupanuga on the 20th of April, 1974, Srila Prabhupada's point was, amongst my godbrother, none of them are qualified for becoming acharya because they all abandoned the mission of Bhaktisiddhanta. They didn't preach. They all fought in the courts. They all became independent acharyas. They didn't cooperate with one another. When Prabhupada came to America, he requested many of them to help. They didn't help. Okay, somebody may say, oh, I sent some letters to Prabhupada. I sent some cartals. No, I'm talking about physically coming to the West, coming to New York, coming to Montreal, coming to San Francisco, London, Tokyo, England, going to do the work. Who did it? Who is the person who did this? There's none other than Srila Prabhupada. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is talking about his name all over the world, somebody asked Prabhupada the question one time, why is it that Lord Chaitanya didn't come and do it? Prabhupada said, because he left the credit for me. Prabhupada did the work, and the credit was given to him. Instead of appreciating what he did, most of them became envious. Very dangerous situation to hear from these people. That's why Prabhupada warned us so many times. Do not hear from these people.
Yeah. Now, we have to remember that back in the 70s, Yashodanandana, when we went to Mayapur for the festival, if you recall, 1973, for example, there is a famous picture of us going on parikram in a big kirtan to the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya. Now, it was interesting to note that we became a symbol of his success because Prabhupada had proved to his godbrothers by this festival that he had preached successfully all around the world and brought Kṛṣṇa consciousness to people in foreign countries, which had never been done before in the history of the world. Remember, Ban Maharaj went to England, he failed. He had to come back. Other godbrothers had tried had tried to preach, but they were not successful. But it was his sincere efforts to please his spiritual master that resulted in this manifestation of devotees from around the world, which you and I were blessed to be in that Sankirtan party, where he could show them, here was Kṛṣṇa consciousness working globally, but still they did not want to help him. Still, they could not accept him. And still, after he left, they tried to come and take advantage of all of his work and make disciples from the disgruntled people from ISKCON that were looking for help because they couldn't find it with the GBC or the gurus. That's what happened to Jadharani. We know that. She left. She was a great devotee. She left because she could not find any shelter. They beat her in New Vrindavan. Can you believe it? This is the tragedy. Nilesh Shamas, one last comment, and maybe Yashoda if he wants to speak.
Hare Krishna. Yes, it reminded me of the pastime which Janaspriya Prabhuji said about Yamuna Devi Mataji, about how Srila Prabhupada was started to be called Srila Prabhupada. But it is interesting that what Vishwakarma Prabhu just said, and I remember the pastime of Srila Prabhupada, where he labels all his disciples who are helping him preach in the West as they are sent by my Guru Maharaj. They are not from he did not take the credit that they are my disciples. He said, no, my Guru Maharaj arranged you, my disciples, to come to me and help me preach Kṛṣṇa consciousness in the West. This is the humility of Srila Prabhupada. I wish Yashananda Prabhu could say something about it.
Well, what you
Please.
said is quite self-sufficient. Prabhupada in the third canto of the Bhagavatam mentions in one place that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is preaching the message of Lord Chaitanya all around the world through his bona fide disciples. Prabhupada always saw that everything was being done on behalf of his guru and for his guru on the order of his guru. He never acted independently. And this is the disease with this acharya. I call it the acharya sweepstakes. As soon as the acharya depart, they're all rushing. Everybody wants to be initiating acharya instead of fulfilling the mission. You see, it's interesting to note that Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and Srila Prabhupada, none of them have a record of making arrangement for successor acharyas or for initiating acharyas. As much as many people in ISKCON want to believe, it's a pious belief to think that Prabhupada appointed somebody as an initiating guru or successor guru, the reality is they can't prove it. Nobody has been able to prove it, because that was not the main approach of these acharyas. Their main approach was Briyat Mridanga preaching, published literature and distributed literature. And this point about who is initiating, this would get sorted out. This is what the caste Brahmins do. In the Prabhupada's poetry in the late 1950s, Prabhupada in one place chastises Ganapati, says, "You are increasing your disciples in a matter of businessman. This is the method of the caste Goswamis. We're not caste Goswamis. We're not like that." Prabhupada did not want this nonsense that is going on. Very, very important point. I've just forwarded an email while we were talking that we have received today from one Govinda Dasi, a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and she sent a very, very important, heartfelt, basically, approach, a missive to all the devotees to not be swept away by propaganda. Do not be victimized by bogus, nonsensical propaganda. You will see, it could be in your email if you've received it. Hare Krishna.
Well, very interesting conversation today and discussion, and we'll look forward tomorrow for Srimad Bhagavatam class, again at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in Canada. Here it's 9 a.m. in Mexico. So mark it in your calendars, and we look forward to having your association with the Prabhupada Disciples Association and the Hare Krishna Society. Tomorrow we'll have Ram Singh tell us a little bit about his new center that he's developing in California, as well as we march forward on our mission to protect the legacy of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Let's move forward with the kirtan.
Shri Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivāsadi Gaurabhakta Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivāsadi Gaur Bhakta Shri Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivāsadi Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Let us offer our respectful obeisances to all the assembled Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Haribo,
Thanks everybody
Haribo.
for participating. Very nice comment from Ron Singh at the end there in the chat section, that a comment by Srila Prabhupada about Kṛṣṇa Goswamis was made in Vrindavan in 1961, making disciples like businessmen. Very important point. History repeats itself. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnava Vamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathannitam Tam Sajivam Sadaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam